Welcome, Spotify listeners, Substack listeners. Welcome to this podcast, my very first podcast that I am not posting to YouTube. I have very intentional reasons for why I'm not posting there. Should I even begin this video by saying that? Maybe I shouldn't, but I did. I'm not going to post there for a while because they've broken my trust, and I don't feel secure about the state of my channel right now. So I don't feel it's right to continue to engage in a pattern. You're like continuing to rehearse the old narrative and not choosing to move to something new. So, if you're on Substack, for whoever you are out there to have barely any following right now, and anyone on Spotify listening to this, if you happen to be listening, welcome. I want to grow my following on these places, and I'm going to focus my energy and time and attention on these platforms and every other platform that I have for a while. So, today I'm going to be talking about Mars retrograde in Cancer and Leo that happened between December 6th of 2024 to February 24th of 2025. Now you're thinking to yourself, why are we talking about this? This has already happened. Well, I wanted to talk about it. I was interested in this particular cycle, and the next one's going to be January through the beginning of April of 2027. So I didn't do an official video covering this, so I wanted to do that. At the time that this cycle was going on, I was at a very different place, at a very different perspective, a very different way of looking at the world at the time. Before I even get into anything, I will remind you that I'm planning on posting some content on my Spotify and Substack, updating those two sources, posting some more videos on Spotify to add to this podcast. That way I can give you video options of a podcast, not just the audio. So kind of adding variety to it, switching it up. So I'll do that a little, maybe today, tomorrow, over the next several weeks, to continue to nurture these two platforms that I'm on now. So, this retrograde happened it started in Leo, at 6 degrees of Leo, and it went back to 17 degrees of Cancer. It transitioned back into Cancer January 7th of 2025. Said the retrograde started December 6th, lasted till February 24th. And the post-shadow of this ended on the 2nd of May of 2025. The pre-shadow started October 7th. So I got all the dates out of the way for this particular cycle. We're sort of going back into the past, or going back into history, looking at this cycle, looking at what went on this time with what happened, basically. Now, let's talk about these themes of these two transits, of all this going on. So, the first thing is The first thing is we're talking about Mars retrograde in Leo. Mars retrograde in Leo. At that time, Mars retrograde in Leo is deeply fiery. Mars retrograde in Leo is deeply bold, and it's dynamic. It's full of energy. It wants to shine. It wants to self-express. It wants to be big, be bold, be loud. Leo is a big and loud sign. It wants to claim ownership of the jungle. We think of the king, ruling over the jungle. Leo is that king ruling over that jungle. At worst, it can be like, I'm the king and you're my servant kind of mentality, but at best it's regal energy. At best it's authentic heart energy. At best it's courageous, confident energy that knows itself and who it knows itself to be, and expressing that out proudly into the world. Now, Mars in Leo wants to make it known who's in charge. And who's in charge? Well, the person who has Mars in Leo. Anyone with Mars in Leo, well, they're going to want to take control, take command of the stage. But this is where I introduce the counterpoint. Because Mars in Leo needs to learn that they cannot always control everybody and everyone. And they really need to look at, where this urge to control people is coming from. We are controlling people, controlling groups, controlling organizations, controlling people in its social life. Where does this urge come from? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from, this place of wanting to get all the attention, wanting to get the egoic attention and the narcissism and the, whatever? Because Leo worse can be the narcissist, be the one always wanting power, control, needing external validation to feel worthy. That's Leo energy, is the need here for external validation. That's really huge with Leo energy. And so, Mars wants to be in charge, and Mars and Leo wants to be the star of the show. They want to wear the king's crown proudly and boldly. They want to be the king of the castle. It's Leo energy is king-queen energy. And the fact is, you hear this phrase thrown around, everyone's a winner. You're a winner. Everybody is a winner. Everybody can be the king or queen of their own domain, of their own place of rulership. Everybody has a worthiness to shine. Everybody has a worthiness to be powerful, to be in charge, to be, this and that. So, Mars in Leo is the king. It is the king or the queen, depending upon the gender. And Mars in Leo wants to rule, wants to prove how strong it wants to be in its power, wants to be fully empowered. Now, Mars in Leo, one thing you need to know is that it fights for things relating to the heart. Fights for things related to the heart chakra, the heart opening, the heart awakening. Fights for all this stuff. Mars in Leo wants to wear its heart on its sleeve, and it wants to fight very heavily. That's what it seeks to do. Mars in Leo needs that fighting spirit, the strong masculine spirit, with what it is doing. Now, Mars in Cancer is a little bit different because Mars went retrograde back into Cancer. And you'll find that I do believe the title of this is a very unique title. And I titled this very, very unique title. It's kind of random, but I thought of the title when I was thinking about Dolly Parton, who was born with Mars retrograde in Cancer, and her famous song Jolene. You know, remember that song, Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you. You know, that kind of song. I also know of someone that I knew for a couple times, a couple interactions that had Mars retrograde in Cancer also. So, Mars in Cancer. Mars in Cancer wants to protect and nurture. It genuinely seeks harmony. It genuinely seeks to care for and take care of. That's what it seeks to do. Wants to nurture people. Wants to nourish people. You know, and all that it does. Mars in Cancer is very, very warm, very, very endearing as a placement goes. And it seeks to create emotional foundations. Seeks to build those emotional foundations very, very strongly up for itself. And, you know, in those kind of ways. So, the thing about it is, it acts on its feelings with what feels safe to it. If something doesn't feel safe, it doesn't act on it. Like Mars in Cancer only acts if it feels safe. Doesn't feel safe, I don't want to take action on it. Now, Mars is currently, right now, as I'm doing this video in 2026, in the sign of Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer may also suffer from passive aggressiveness. Maybe I should define this. Maybe I should define passive aggressive. It is a way of expressing all kinds of feelings, like anger, in an indirect way. Writing a stop note, or just going along with it to rebel. And they're being a little bit of a hypocrite, like what they say does not match what they do. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. So Mars retrograde in Leo, it challenges our ego. When Mars goes retrograde, our ego puts a little bit of a brake. We'll put a little bit of a brake on our ego. We're putting the brakes on our drive, our determination, or how we assert ourselves, how we stand up for ourselves in the world. That's Mars. And when Mars goes retrograde, it's like, now it's put on hold. Now we're reviewing, now we're reflecting. Now we're stopping with the impulse to act. And we tend to procrastinate, we tend to bottle things in. But Mars retrograde invites reflection and feeling it out before taking immediate action. So our ego could have got challenged at this time, especially from December 6th through January 7th. And I'm going to talk about it like it is in the present tense. Okay, I'll occasionally go back and forth, whatever feels natural. But this is a past tense, but with these videos, I will sort of refer to them as past tenses. So, This is about shining from a place of not wanting to dominate and, take control, but wanting to be in our power, in our full power, in our authority. That's Leo energy. Now, Mars in Cancer reflects on emotional foundations. And what are your emotional foundations? Home, family, whatever they are. You can think of all kinds of emotional foundations. And time to nurture your emotional foundations is when Mars is in Cancer. And especially reviewing like, are these emotional foundations sustainable? Can they hold up time and space? Can they hold up in my life? Will they work long term for me in my life? So, we could have been, reflecting on this, how we are looking at our emotional foundations and how, how well that is, how well that's really working out for us, is looking at how well we are nourishing our foundations. How well we are nourishing our home, our sense of peace, our sense of connectedness, all that kind of thing. Now, what are you truly passionate about? So Mars in Cancer, Mars in Leo asks. Leo deals with your passions, what lights you up. Some sort of oscillating, I guess you could say, from Cancer to Leo here. But what are you passionate about? What lights your heart on fire? What lights you up? Could be a creative project, could be a building project, could be some other type of thing. But whatever it is, you're invited to get in touch with this passion at this time. Now, there could have been some changes in leadership during Mars and Leo. There could have been some stagnation of the railing as we go on the sea and we see the dock and we take that rope and we tie it to the knot of the dock. So there could have been some changes in terms of how we relate to leadership. What makes a good leader, a good benevolent leader who thinks about its people rather than itself? Instead of being self-serving, it is others-serving. It is not putting, it is putting the we before me. This doesn't mean self-sacrifice. This means I am authentically doing what feels right. And we're all spiritual beings, so doesn't it feel right if you're a leader to serve whoever you are leading in this case? So we're looking at where leaders have not been kind, have not been benevolent, and we're looking at reshaping and reconfiguring the mold on that kind of thing. Looking at how we can create better leaders, kinder leaders, because the best leader puts itself outside of the triangle, looks at other people on the other side of the triangle, doesn't really relate to that at all, and it looks at all those other people and how they can lead, how they can shine. Now, Mars retrograde in Cancer could have had us look at the safety and security around home-related matters, such as home affordability. This could be a really, really big theme coming up for you now, is home affordability. And homes are just so expensive now. And there's more opportunity for buyers because of inflation now. So homes could have been more expensive at this time. We're looking at this time, how homes were a very, very big issue. Now, there could be some powerful families coming up during this time. Could be some powerful family dynamics coming up for you. In terms of what you find beneficial to you when it comes to your relationships with your family. What are your relationships with your family like? Are they nurturing relationships? Are they, loving relationships? Are they kind, good-hearted relationships? That's what I really, really want to ask you. Or does there need to be some bending of the bone in these relationships? Do you need to bring the olive branch over the table and stretch it out to create more, connection with your family. Now, any unresolved issue with this transit comes to the forefront. Any unresolved issue regarding ego, regarding family, regarding home life comes up for you to look at and gets revealed. That is really, really huge for you. These unresolved issues come up to get looked at, to get evaluated, to get seen with the naked eye. These issues are really, really huge. So, all these issues that you've been repressing, that you've been pushing down, they are now getting lifted up, and the veil is getting lifted up. You're now saying, oh, now I see these issues, and now I can do something to change and fix and improve these issues with addressing them on an emotional level. Now, there could be a decrease in social media, especially with its South Node in Leo, North Node Aquarius, less about visibility and over ability when it comes to how good you are, how good you really are, and how well you know your stuff, and how fine-tuned you are with honing your craft, instead of, oh, I just have all the following, I just have all the sparkles and bells and whistles and, shines, and I'm just getting all this attention. That's going to become less popular when that North Node continues to move over Aquarius. Mars was retrograde in the opposite sign of Aquarius. So we could have had people be wanting to be less on social media, wanting to be less on just getting all popular, getting all famous, and getting all the likes, getting all the views, and all the attention, all the, wanting the attention, wanting the validation. I also think that YouTube, you can easily see views, and I think that with Spotify, you kind of don't really care as much about the validation. So that Leo solar eclipse, when I decided I'm going to stop with YouTube for a little bit, that could have been where I was saying no to not feeling like I had the external validation, because that algorithm on there was really, really bad, because it didn't allow my audience to see my videos, and it didn't allow my messages to get out there, and my videos barely got any views now in August. So hopefully the views will increase on these episodes over time. So we could connect to to a more authentic, heart-centered way of a relationship, to a more emotionally kind and tender way. It's Mars retrograde in Cancer going on here. So, becoming more authentic. How can we connect emotionally? How can we connect on an emotional, heart-based level, with ourselves? That's really what we are thinking about at this particular time. And so there could have been some issues with rising water coming up. There could have been these kind of things going on with Mars in Cancer, because it's water, and so there's an increase here of the water levels going up. So placements between 0 to 10 degrees of the fixed signs maybe need to really look at their ego and how well that they are putting out their ego, showing their ego, expressing their ego, so that they're not overly egoic, they're not overly prideful, they're overly, controlling. Now, 14 to 29 degrees of the cardinal signs, any people with placements that includes planets, points, and angles, from those degrees, may have felt like their emotions were truly brought up to be looked at. The emotions were brought up to the surface, that they were in the light of consciousness, that Mars is going to review these things, that Mars is going to bring up any unresolved emotion to be felt. And the emotions come up not to hurt us, not to harm us, but for them to be felt, moved through, acknowledged, and moved on from, so that we can fully integrate that emotion and be able to move past the emotion into more security, more stability, etc. So, are we just being who we are authentically? Are we being our true self? Are we expressing ourselves in our own power, in our own authenticity, in our own truth, in our own independence and individuation? Or are we just performing to get likes, or to get, followers, or to get attention, or to put on a certain role just because other people like it, and because doing this will garner, I guess that's the word for it, or get you attention? If you go in this platform, or if you do this thing, if you do that thing in this way, like Donald Trump is Leo Rising, he knew how to work that audience with the getting all the attention, doing things just for the performance aspect of it, just for that superficial, getting the validation. Because there's deep insecurity, and you have to really, really look at your insecurities when it comes to how do you want to be validated at this time. Right now. Okay. So, what are we doing? What are we doing in that sense? Going on here. So, where do we need to get honest with ourselves? Deeply honest with ourselves about our own, our own shadows, our own pitfalls, our own downfalls. Where do we need to get honest with ourselves about where do we get angry, where do we become aggressive and emotionally manipulative and guilt-tripping, and where do we need love and nurturing and care, and not getting abandoned, not getting our needs met, not getting taken care of, not being taken care of on that emotional, heart-centered level, not being validated, not have the mirroring effect of getting the validation that we so need growing up. Like, we could look at our childhood patterns, like where we were not given the validation of ourselves growing up. But it would be a time to become honest with ourselves about where we need to be nurtured and taken care of. Now, during the shadow period, the pre-shadow, we can, finish things requiring high energy. That's what we need to do, really. Is finishing what we need to finish, resolving what we need to resolve before Mars goes retrograde. Resolving, finishing up, completing. Then we slow down and we look at where do we become overly aggressive, overly impulsive. Where do we need to reflect and review on what you want to assert in your life and initiate, what you want to initiate, because Mars retrograde is initiating. It is not just going out there and initiating. And it's like you don't have to be at the driver's seat all the time. It's an opportunity to slow down and not always have to be in charge and in control of your life and every decision that you make all the time. So not just starting new things, but maybe restarting a project that you've started a long time ago. It's maybe good to restart that, reinitiate. That's Mars retrograde energy. And maybe time to play it quiet. Don't be so assertive and don't be so loud and, whatever. And just assert yourself in a way that's gentle, in a way that's loving, in a way that's connected to the divine with, whatever you're doing, in that regard. And you can move forward in a more clear-headed, focused way now. Where you are after the post-shadow, after Mars retrograde, after the post-retrograde shadow, we move on. We can move forward with more direction, with more will. So it's about showing others your true emotional self, your true authentic self with who you are, truly, authentically. Your real and raw self. That's really who you are. So it's kind of the time to show that out into the world. Your real emotional self, the self that feels, the self that is integrated, etc. So we can calm down our emotions, not being so moody or there's other things going on with this. There's some aspects that I want to get to, but calming ourselves down emotionally, not being so emotional. April 18th is when Mars leaves Cancer in post-shadow of 2025. You could feel more sensitive on emotional level with Mars retrograde in Cancer, feeling more tender, feeling more like we want to go inside ourselves, like we want to reflect and do all those things, like we want to not always give and not always show and not always work so hard in the page of the book, not always stretch anota with what we're doing in that page of the book. So now we could look at our sensitivity. Like we're feeling more tender, we're feeling more sensitive now. We feel moody and passive aggressive. The other thing is being aware where we become overly passive aggressive and emotional. It's not a good time for taking big risks. If there's any big risks that you want to take when it comes to just a new goal that you just want to suddenly go out and make happen all of a sudden, the Mars retrograde isn't the best time for that, because it's going to backfire on you. Probably. Because like you start a goal during Mars retrograde. Mars goes direct. Oh, wait a second. I don't want to do that anymore. That goal no longer has enthusiasm and juice and aliveness. Like that's what happens is someone gets energized during the Mars retrograde. And then afterward, it's like, I don't know if I have the energy anymore to do this. I don't know if I have the energy or the enthusiasm or the excitement that I had to want to pursue this, to want to make this happen. So, time to take cautious risks. If you're taking any risks, then don't make a really, really big risk during this time. Before you go into the new year, wait till February 24th to then make your new goals happen. Make your resolution plans happen in that kind of way. Now, holding off on really going at it and taking action. Waiting it out, or going cautiously, going slowly and flowingly into it. You don't have to always push and force things into action. Now, we can get cozy with Mars retrograde in the sign of Cancer. We can certainly get this like this. Getting comfortable, getting warm, and inviting with this with this energy. It's winter time, so stay home, relax, and there could be some strong feelings around family coming up. Strong feelings around your family of origin, the people in your family, whoever it is. And there's going to be some aspects that I want to discuss, and the first of which is going to be Mars trine Saturn. So Mars is going to trine Saturn in Pisces. Mars in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. So this could have made you more focused and determined to pursue your goals, to really put something in for the long term and really put the effort into it and wait for the truck to go all around the track and go down the track to reach it to the long-term end goal. We go past that end goal and boom, we get to the other side of it. We have our net fishing and we have our gold yellow ribbon and boom, we cross that path. And so now we're going to find that we are more focused, more determined, more willing to just go at it and pursue our desires and what we intend to do. We could have really put a lot of focus on practical matters, really putting a lot of discipline, a lot of drive into these things when it comes to becoming more intuitive, like going to the intuition gym, oracle cards, meditation, because Saturn in Pisces is becoming disciplined as spiritual practice, getting connected to the higher power, getting connected to the universe, and having a spiritual discipline where you are putting in the work to flow, to connect with the divine, to be compassionate, to be loving, to be all those kind of things with all that flowing, heart-centered spiritual energy. Now, we could have moved, we could have worked slowly and steadily at this time for the long term. If there's any long-term goals, any long-term projects, we could have really worked at that very slowly, very gradually at the time. And it's a time to focus on when Mars is trine Saturn. It's beautiful, productive energy for slow and steady progress. And Mars tends to want external validation. Mars tends to want to get it right now, and I want the results right now, and I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait it out. I don't want to be patient. I don't want to wait 2 years to 2 weeks. I want it now. I want to know the results now. I want to have the results now. And Saturn says, not so fast. Time to wait it out so that you can see the results better. So that you can see the results happening, over time. So you're putting in slow and steady progress for the long term, because Saturn is the long-term game. So, that's what that is. Now, Mars was also sextile Uranus. So there could be some unexpected connections coming out at this time. There could be some surprising relationships that just came out of the blue, like, whoa, I mean, it's just so sudden. Mars in Cancer sextile Uranus in Taurus. So, family connections that you form inside of your home, new unexpected relationships that you didn't realize that you had this in common with your family. You didn't realize that this person had this thing going on with, whatever that they were doing. There could be some unexpected interactions, unexpected ways of going about the world with that new sudden interaction that just comes up out of the blue. We want groups that also foster change, that work to create social change. Social change is very, very important. And, we want to create that change for society. And Aquarius It was ruled by Uranus, so shared values, group values. What am I doing and how am I individually with my own unique goals, desires, contributing to society? How is this group contributing to the community? How are these communities contributing to the world? So it can be a group of people who want to make a change, who want to do things different, coming together in tribe and collaborating and doing all those beautiful air-like things of engaging, talking, listening, speaking, bouncing ideas off one another, working together in harmony. Like this is all air energy. This is all beautiful energy that is that detached, intellectual, bright energy of Aquarius. Now, this could have been where we looked at, where it's kind of like, we want connection. We want that deep connection and that bond with other people. We want to connect in very, very heart-centered ways. But what about the intimacy piece of that? What about the emotional validating piece? What about the emotional connection piece of it? Because we probably could have felt like we didn't get our can't get our emotions validated. It's very, very hard to be intimate, very, very difficult to be vulnerable, very, very difficult to be heart-centered and deeply emotional. That's what we are getting ourselves into. And that connection was maybe put on the back burner, put on hold at the stake, fearing for that horse to ride up on the bridges in the Bacon Ridge. So where do we want to form connections? But where are we resistant? Because it requires emotional intimacy. We need to develop that. So we could have had new topics. Learning is a great time for learning, getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of your stuck box, and learning about new cultures, learning about new traditions, and ways of being. Really expanding your mind in that way, and being open to change. It's also a time when there was an opportunity to flow with change, flow with a work routine that is bound to change. Having a work routine, in a way, whatever that routine is, it could be walking up the hill backwards and forwards. It could be brushing your teeth. It could be going up the tree and hunting all those great deer rocks and throwing them up the branches in pine holes. Whatever that routine is, you are creating change with that routine. You are forming change. You are instilling change in that kind of way with whatever you're doing. So you want change. Change is the key word for Uranus energy. Uranus demands that you change. Uranus demands that you actively move with what feels right. You actively don't stay stuck and rigid to the old, but you move with the current. Now Mars opposes Pluto. So Mars, when it hit 1 degree of Leo, it formed a direct opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Now during this cycle, Pluto moved on from Capricorn to Aquarius for good. Right at the very, very tail end, the beginning of November, Mars at the very, very end of Cancer at 29 degrees, opposed Pluto exactly at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So Mars opposite Pluto, and that could have been where we're looking at family, emotional structures, watery structures versus earthly, material, hierarchy, governments, people in power, people in top positions of power. And then the Leo Aquarius is where we just doing things and pursuing things and going after things and making things happen just for our own ego, just for our own gain and our own, feeling, self-grandiosity and self-aggrandizement, feeling good about ourselves. And it benefits us. It doesn't benefit the collective, the community. It isn't for the highest good of the all. It isn't humanitarian. It isn't thinking of the greater good, it isn't savvy to be able to participate in. So that's how that could have felt. But this is a time which is not about bottling up your emotions, because things come to the surface that may get triggered. Emotions come to the surface. You see things, you're feeling the emotions, and these very, very hot, heavy emotions. These hot, heavy emotions could have come up for resolution, could have for getting resolved and fixed and remedied, getting a handle on these feelings, and where you proceed gracefully in the situation instead of just going at it very, very half-handedly, and where we're not allowing your intense, heavy, high emotions to get the better of you. You're not allowing your intense, hot, running emotions to interfere with your own peace. Power dynamics are highlighted during Mars opposite Pluto. Either could go either one of two ways. Either you're overly controlling, you have all the control, you have all the power, you have all what's going on with you wanting to dominate, you wanting to be the hinge force of that basketball court, throwing it up into the field and saying, no. So becoming really, really controlling, wanting to dominate, feeling like you need to be feeling like empowerment means, if I have power over others and I'm dominating them and I'm the one in charge, and that is an unhealthy sense of empowerment. We need to really, really look at that. So we can all be in our power, but we're not overpowering other people. We're allowing everybody else, like when we feel totally worthy to be in our own power, we don't overpower anybody else. When we feel worthy enough, like that overpowering, that over-controlling stems from a certain feeling of unworthiness, like we can't have enough power, like we don't have enough power. And so, or we can't be empowered. So then we want to fight back against that limiting belief and take control and have, and dominate and do all of this. So either you're too controlling or feeling like, you lack power in some regard, or you lack power, or you don't have enough power, or it can be both. It can overlap. So, feeling like, maybe you feel like your power is squashed out of you, or you're just subservient to everybody else. You're just subservient to what society wants, to what, other people want from you, to what, is expected of you. And you can't be empowered to make your own choices, live your own life, make your own decisions, and you're, having to be like that. So, another way that this can show up is a positive expression of this is resilience and the drive to change your goals, to change how you approach your goals, to turn them inside and out, to radically change how you go about pursuing your goals so that you're more focused, that you're more willful, that you're more steadfast when it comes to the actual pursuit of these goals. And you are showing strength and a tough skin kind of thing, and you are becoming deeply resilient in that regard when it comes to how you show up and how you pursue your goals, because you are displaying that that strength to get through tough things. And really resilience, like how we have all these wounds and wrinkles on our face from aging and all these wounds on our bodies, like resilience can be what I've gone through. I've struggled through very, very difficult experiences, and I've become stronger as a person from these very, very difficult experiences. Experiences sort of force me into a push me up against a wall and force me to be more resilient, stronger as a person. So where do we need to not be so aggressive? Because we could find ourselves wanting to be so hot-headed and hot-tempered and just going into it all hot and going into a battle, fighting on all fronts, being very, very intense emotionally during this opposition around January 6th and 7th. But it was a time to take a breath and find the healing humor in the situation. And I want to say healing humor in this case, and I want to mean it authentically and really. Where you are finding the humor in a situation. You're not taking it so seriously. You're not taking what other people say or do so seriously. Where you are, finding what is funny, finding what is light, finding what is good in the situation, and you're really, really living that out. You're finding that that humor, that laughter, that joy that doesn't make the situation so intense and so serious anymore. We were so caught up in the hard emotions of it, and how this person did wrong to you, and how this person backstabbed you, and this and that, and underneath the bed, headboard, and just cutting it out from underneath. And it's like, oh my goodness, no. We can just relax and find joy in what we intend to do, in that regard. Any limiting beliefs and unhealthy habits that no longer serve us, we're releasing this at this time, because those limiting beliefs can really, really hold us back from living our fullest life, and unhealthy habits that, where do we need to look at our limiting beliefs? And where those limiting beliefs hold us back from living a life that our soul desires to live. Because we're ultimately here to live a life that our soul wants. And we need to surrender these limiting beliefs. As hard as it is sometimes, we need to surrender these limiting beliefs to be more in alignment with our soul and our spiritual essence. And then looking at, unhealthy habits and how they are not serving you, because Pluto can indicate like OCD tendencies, obsessive compulsiveness, very, very underground, very, very negative, destructive habits that are from the underworld that just come up, that just get lifted up and revealed and brought up, that we need to look at and reveal and see how that's not working out for us. And are you making your decisions from a place of calm, peace, serenity? It feels right. It feels correct. It feels on time. It feels good. It feels safe. It feels aligned with my soul. Or am I acting from my fears and insecurities? Or am I making decisions, from what I fear of myself? Am I just acting based off of my fear and based off of my limiting beliefs, and allowing those to get the better of what I want to do, and in my life, because of all these rules, restrictions, limitations, and where you're allowing your insecurities to interfere with making decisions and really, really leading your life the way that you want to, because we can really, really allow our insecurities and our doubt, our limiting beliefs, and our doubts to hold us back from living a life that our soul wants to live, and living a life with our soul's desires, and where we're not living the life that our soul wants. We're allowing our insecurities and our conditions and our limiting beliefs to hold us back, and we need to look at letting that go. Mars and Leo, opposite Pluto and Aquarius, like being an individual, standing out, being bold, and being assertive to be who you are unapologetically, expressing from your heart. I'm expressing in my own self-expression to serve humanity, to serve the greater good of all. So that is what I want to say for Mars retrograde in Cancer and Leo. That's all that I have to say in part 1. Part 2 is coming up for all 12 zodiac signs. I'm so excited to get into that. It'll be very, very exciting to cobble together that. That will be tomorrow's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Whoever you are listening to this, I so appreciate your you're watching and you're viewing and you're tuning into this podcast. I really, really appreciate you a ton. I love you a ton, whoever you are, because I have a very small following on these platforms. Whoever you are listening, I so appreciate you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say here. And if this found you at the right time, please follow this podcast so that you get notified on the latest episodes, and follow me on Substack. You can go on Substack and just type in my name, Everett Curdy. You'll find my page. You'll find my handle there that I made. CS Astrology Insights is my handle. You'll find that there. And I post things regularly there, updates, real main podcast episodes, all kinds of things posted over there. So if you want more stuff, the official managing of my pages, at least until the end of this year, that I will be posting on Substack for the most part. So that's where I will be. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast. Bye for now.